Hello, I'm Catherine Sines, the president of the Rotary Club of Hudson. Rotary is a professional organization of a group of men and women who support Rotary International. We also join together by a common interest of service to our Hudson community, and we have a sincere desire to give back. We meet weekly on Wednesdays at Laurel Lake Retirement Community, 200 Laurel Lake Drive, in their dining room. We meet from 7:30 to 8:30 and would like to invite you to join us. For more information about Rotary, go to www.rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the following excerpts from one of our recent meetings and consider joining us on Wednesday morning.
Morning, Rotarians and guests.
Good morning, Ron.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Phil Tobin.
Thank you, Ron. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Beautiful day out there, isn't it? Heavenly Father, as we gather in good friendship today, we thank you for the food before us. Help us to remember the hungry. We thank you for our help. Remember the sick. We thank you for our friends. Remember the friendless. We thank you for our freedom. Help us to remember the enslaved. May these remembrances stir our services, that these gifts be used to make our world a better place. In your name, we ask it. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Phil. And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Andy Morse.
Andy's following me.
I do. What beautiful feat to follow, too. It's Phil Tobin. And as he said, it's a gorgeous day, and it's a gorgeous day to be an American. And because it's a great day to be an American, let's all say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's a beautiful day to be a Rotarian. And because of that, we're going to try to remember those four things. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, Mr. Strobel.
Thank you, Andy. To lead us in song, Dick Pearsall.
I had a request today from Jim, my friend Jim. He said, the only place they ever sing America, my country too, is at Rotary. I think it's a simple but a powerful message. So let's sing it for Jim. My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims fight, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. There it goes.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Jim.
And there is one other place we sang this recently, Dick. We were up at Chautauqua on Friday to hear Garrison Keillor, and before he started any of his program, he started humming, and the whole stadium sang that song. And now our president, Catherine Sines.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. First, we're going to have Chris Barker announce all our guests. We have quite a few this morning.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Good morning. If you would please join me in welcoming some of our guests today. Joining us, and if they would please stand when I call their name, Casey Ackerman and her mother, Ellen. And Casey will tell us about her excursions to Brazil as Rotary Youth Exchange outgoing student last year. Thanks for joining us. And joining us again for second, third, fourth time, Dick Nebbiolo, Rebecca Moore, and Lori McLeese. Thank you. And then joining us today as a guest of Catherine Sines is Sue Carter.
Good morning, Sue.
So I hope you enjoyed today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. A couple of things I just wanted to mention. There's an Indians game flyer on your table. It's getting close, so according to Ron, we may need to call or email the gentleman at the bottom to tell them you're sending it in, or to do it online, because it's the 3rd. So just want to tell you, and there are a few of us from the club going, so want to join Ron and I for the ball game. And after last night, they won an extra innings. Yes, James.
I didn't sign up online or send it in. Have they made arrangements for getting us the tickets?
I know that I have like a small season tickets, and they emailed them to me.
The email?
They emailed them, and I had to print them out or just show my email. So I'm not sure if that's, did they send them to you, Ron? Do you know?
I'm not sure what he's gonna do this year, but he'll get them to you one way or another.
And if you want to, I can check, because I'm going to call today. If you want, I'll check for you, James, if that helps. Okay.
Is this to take care of it, or?
That's just so that I can email him and tell him who's coming, so we can all sit together. You have,
How many on this?
yeah, or just your name, so he can make sure, if the names are different, I'd put the names so we can try to get them to all sit together. But you have to send the flyer that's on the table in. You either email it or, okay, because we kind of got a late start on it. Okay, and then I wanted to just mention that we got a thank you card from the Alzheimer's Association for the fine day we gave to the Alzheimer's, and we also got a thank you card from Hattie Harlan. And the other thing is that art on the green, we only need 2 more spots that need someone. Down to 1. Down to 1? Okay, we have 1 spot that needs help, and if you are willing to volunteer, to see Bob Cram. Okay, Joe Avila, would you like to introduce Casey? Is it Casey or Cassie? Casey? Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to introduce to you this morning Casey Ackerman. Casey was our outbound Rotary Youth Exchange student this past year. Casey spent 9 or 10 months in Aracatuba, Brazil, which is in the state of Sao Paulo. And so, Casey, if you could come on up and tell us a little bit about your experiences in Brazil. You may have met Casey back in the spring when she was doing her training with our District 6630, and as Casey was preparing for her outbound year. And she went away in July of last year and just returned just a few weeks ago.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As you know, I was an exchange student in Aracatuba, Brazil, and this is a presentation that I did for my Rotary district. So it will be in Portuguese, but I'll say it in English.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
This was my first host family, and with my first host family, they took me to Foz do Iguaçu, which is we're at the border of Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina, and they have these beautiful waterfalls that are just giant, and it's one of the famous attractions in South America, and I was very honored to be invited to go. So here are some of the pictures of that. This was my second family, and with my second family, I didn't go a lot of places, but I made a lot of friendships, and I lived in an apartment building, and the first picture on the left, on the top, was my family and some of my friends, and they had a buggy cart, and we'd go riding through the streets on it, and the second is me horseback riding with one of my friends who lived in a different city, but she'd come to visit me, and it was Brazil, so it was hot, so we had a lot of pool parties, and it was really nice to build a lot of friendships. My third family was 3 girls. It was a mom and 2 daughters, and they were really sweet to me. And for my birthday, no one had any idea it was my birthday, but they surprised me. And because apparently they knew, even though I didn't tell them. And they surprised me in my room and made me a cake. And they took me to church, and they just brought me everywhere with them. They showed me off to all their friends, and they were very excited, and I was very excited to have them too. They had a festival which is called Santa Anita Gicasia, and it's a party for a saint, Santa Anita, and it's just a giant party, and they took, my third host family took me, and we had a really good time, and I'm blessed to have those memories with them. And these are some of my friends that I had in Brazil with my school. My school was a private school, and we had two classes per grade, and there were 3 grades. So we had about 300 kids in total in my school. And in my class, I made a lot of friends because I changed host families, but I never changed schools. So I was with the same kids throughout my whole time in Brazil. So yeah, I miss them a lot, and I hope that I'll go visit them or they'll come visit me someday. And also, one of the things that I loved the most about being an exchange student was the fact that I met a lot of people from different countries who were exchange students in Brazil as well. And one of my best friends who is at the top. Her name is Bunan, and she's from Thailand. And she was one of the best friends I made there, and she was like a sister to me. And the picture with all the kids in it, that was my district. And there were people from Mexico, Denmark, Germany, France, Africa, Spain, Taiwan, Thailand. There were a lot of people, and I became close friends with all of them, and it was a great experience, and I can't wait to go visit them in their home countries. And for fun there, I went exploring with my friend a lot, and we'd found banana trees and all kinds of different Brazilian fruits, and we'd eat them. And I also took a free ballet class because I was an exchange student, and they offered ballet, and I grew really close with the girls in my class. And I also took Muay Thai, which is a Thai fighting style, and it's really popular in Brazil. And I took that for free as well because I was an exchange student. And I was very honored to have these opportunities. And it wouldn't be capable if I didn't have you as my sponsor district. So I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Your best friend speak Portuguese?
Yes, I talked to her in Portuguese even though it wasn't any of our first languages. That's how we would communicate with each other.
Casey, I'm curious, as you were meeting Brazilians, what were they asking you about? What were they interested in?
They asked me about where I lived, and they never understood where Ohio was. And I'd have to say, it was close to New York and Canada, even though we aren't really. It's a long distance. It's a few hours. But that they only really knew about California and Orlando. So they asked me about that a lot. Have I been to Disney World? Has I been to Disneyland? Stuff like that.
How was school different there than here?
They had public school and private school. And the public school kids there were poorer. And they most likely were not going to go to college. So public school focused more on mechanics and stuff like that you could learn to have in your life and have a job instead of going to college. And private school, they focused a lot on college and building up your test scores to go to college. So I was at a private school. Because my Rotary district there placed me in a private school. So my friends were always busy studying. They had school 6 days a week. And even Sundays, sometimes they would come into school and take tests. So they were very focused.
What grade are you in next?
I'm going to be a senior next year.
Oh, I was just going to ask you that, but what do you plan on doing, or is it too early? Do you plan on traveling and studying again overseas, or want a career in something like that?
I'd hope to go to maybe Asia next, because I have a lot of friends there, and I think the language is very interesting. But no, I really don't have any idea about what I want to do. I just know that I want it to be with other countries and other languages.
How do you think it'll be your senior year back at Hudson? Kind of boring?
Yeah.
Well, if you're used to studying so hard, you know, we can probably make arrangements for that to continue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to take a moment and thank Casey for having the courage and the strength and the independence to leave our city of Hudson and travel 5,000 miles away to this wasn't London or Paris she went to. This was a small town in Brazil. And she was representing our community and our country as a student ambassador. That's really what this youth exchange program is about. And her year abroad, she was able to teach those people about our country, about our ideas, and about our culture. So it really is an important program. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank Ellen and Russ for allowing Casey to go abroad. And it's certainly a testament to the trust and the confidence that they have in their young daughter to spend a year away. And Russ and Ellen were also host parents to our inbound student, Yashik. And we want to thank you for that, and thank you for supporting Rotary. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey. I think you made us all very proud. Next on this morning's agenda is George is going to introduce our speaker. Thanks, George.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. And good morning to guests as well. We conclude this morning our month-long series on local attractions. You may or may not know that there are 59 U.S. national parks, and they are found in 27 states and 2 U.S. territories. Alaska has the most, 8, while Ohio has 1. And that park is down the road just about 4 miles away. I have been affiliated with Cuyahoga Valley National Park since I became a trustee 11 years ago of Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, which operates on right-of-way that is owned by the park. One of the park's 2 founders, Congressman John Seiberling, had died many years before. Its other founder, Congressman Ralph Regula, died just last week. In my first railroad board meeting, I met Deb Yandala, who has been CEO since 2002 of the park's Friends Group, which is now called the Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The Conservancy connects the community with the park in many ways, including managing the park's environmental education, its arts and volunteer programs, not to mention raising money for the park's Trails Forever program and for its new visitor center. Deb is a leader in the National Park Service partnership community, serving as president of the NPS Friends Alliance, board member of the organization managing national park stores, and member of the NPS Advisory Board's Education Committee. Deb has a BA from the Miami University and an MS in Natural Resources from the University of Michigan. Locally, she serves on the board of Arts Now in Summit County and on the boards of Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry in Cleveland and Trinity Lutheran Seminary in Columbus. In what is left of her spare time, she plays viola for the Cleveland Philharmonic Orchestra, the Chagrin Valley Studio Orchestra, and the Hermit Club of Cleveland Orchestra. She lives in Cleveland with her husband, the Reverend Sherman Bishop, and they have 3 grown children. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me now in giving a warm Rotary welcome to my friend and fellow park supporter, Deb Yandala.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Good morning. It's delightful to be with you this morning on a beautiful morning here in the Cuyahoga Valley and in Hudson. I love the opportunity to talk about the park, and I appreciate your inviting me to be with you today. George did a great introduction to this national park. And I find as I travel and attend meetings around the country, people will say to me, wow, Cuyahoga Valley National Park, that's a great place. Then I come back home to Northeast Ohio. People ask me where I work, and I say, oh, Cuyahoga Valley National Park. What do you think the responses I get? There's a national park in Ohio? Where's that? So one of the reasons I love to get out and speak and talk about the park is I want to make sure that people in our community know and understand this park. I also want to have you join me being ambassadors. Do you know how special and unique we are as a region and as cities, Akron and Cleveland, to have a national park in our backyard? Talk about an economic development asset. Talk about a resource that attracts young people. People want to live in communities where they're close to parks, and people want to live where there are opportunities to have healthy outlets. We really need to be raising up the story of Cuyahoga Valley National Park more broadly in Northeast Ohio, and I really hope all of you will help tell the story. And that's part of the information I want to share with you today, so you can help me with that story. Of those 59 parks this past year, we were the 12th most visited national park. Now, when I say that, I sometimes hear from local people, well, yeah, it's all those people like us that commute and drive on the roads going through the Cuyahoga Valley. No, it's not that. The visitation in Cuyahoga Valley National Park are people that actually use the park. The park does its counting statistics by people pulling into parking lots for the national park. So we know that, and they do kind of a nationally based percentage, how many people per car are using. We actually think the count is perhaps undercounted. We also take counts from the Scenic Railroad, from attending events in the park. Not Blossom Music Center. Those folks don't get counted, even though that's in the national park. So we actually, again, I think that we're undercounted, and yet this speaks to how popular Cuyahoga Valley National Park is. So I'm curious, how many of you have been even once to Cuyahoga Valley National Park? Good. You live on the edge of it. You should be there. How many of you have been there in the last month? Quite a few. Very good. How many of you have been there, go on a kind of a regular basis, maybe once a week? Anybody? Handful of you. Okay, great. Anybody an everyday user? Sometimes when I speak, we get everyday users. Okay, great. Who are out there, that's how they get their exercise. Our community loves our national park. They don't always get it's a national park, but they love the park, and that's why our visitation is high. But I also want to tell you, and I'll mention this a couple times during my presentation this morning, we are getting an increasing number of out-of-state visitors, and it's increasing quite rapidly. And I'll challenge you this, stop in a parking lot, go behind Boston Store, go to Brandywine Falls, especially during months starting kind of May through October, and look at the license plates. Yesterday when I was down at Boston Store, California, Arizona, Kentucky, Tennessee, we are increasingly becoming an attraction out of state, and we are increasingly getting people here. They come to Northeast Ohio to see Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Then they go see the other attractions in Northeastern Ohio. There's a lot of park aficionados out there, and we want to make sure we're giving them the best welcome we can give. It's 33,000 acres, and that's one of the things that is pretty incredible about Cuyahoga Valley National Park is this kind of acreage nestled in between two major cities, Akron and Cleveland, to have this amount of land preserved and protected. It's fairly close to, it's actually just a little bit more acres than the entire Cleveland Metro Park system. And part of what's great, I'll put my natural resources hat on, about having this amount of land protected is it provides great habitat for wildlife and protection of plants. Since all of you have been to the park, you know the beauty of it. You know that the deep ravines. I find the out-of-state people, that's what I hear most often, is they think Ohio is flat. First of all, I loved Casey's comment. They don't know, there's a national park in Ohio that, we were so surprised. Where's Ohio? Why does Ohio have a national park? Then they think it's flat. And then they get back into the ledges, they get back into the ravines. Our waterfalls are really spectacular, and they can't get over, this is Ohio. We love to turn them into converts. And of course, the main attraction in the national park is the canal, is the towpath trail and the Ohio and Erie Canal. And one of the great things about national parks is they not just show off beauty, natural beauty, but also great historical stories. And the Ohio Erie Canal is such an important piece of history. And I look around the room, a number of you are my age, maybe some of you are a little older, some of you are a little younger, but I don't remember learning much about canals when I was a kid. I don't remember those stories being told other than the Erie Canal in New York. The Ohio and Erie Canal was the canal that really opened up settlement to the west, connected Lake Erie and the east, the Great Lakes in the east, to the Ohio River and really the western part of the United States. So as a canal, it was quite significant. And the fact that it's now preserved and we have this spectacular towpath trail going alongside of it is just such a critical part of the story of the national park. Our national park is also popular year-round, and when you think of many of our national parks, they're fairly seasonal. It's hard to get into Yellowstone. Not many people go to Yellowstone in the winter, although if you get that chance, it's spectacular. Same with Glacier, a number of our northern wilderness parks, Yosemite, hard to get to. We have a beautiful park that is popular year-round, and I love to encourage people to get there. In the winter, I think our waterfalls in the winter are just really amazing. Indigo Lake, we have beautiful little lake, and it's very charming. And there's so many different habitats, meadows. The former Coliseum site has become one of the best birding hot spots in Ohio because of the preservation of that meadow area. All of the tributaries of the Cuyahoga River provide incredible beauty. It was a bit of a foggy morning this morning when I crossed on the turnpike over the Cuyahoga River. We get mornings like this where it's just really spectacular setting. We are often rated as one of the top places nationally for photography because of the way that our seasons are and the shifting beauty of the national park. And of course the wildlife. And I think the return of the bald eagles nesting along the Cuyahoga River is one of the best parts of the stories here. As we think about what the Cuyahoga River was a number of years ago when it burned, and we're coming up in 2019 to the 50th anniversary of the Cuyahoga River burning, the most recent burning, and look at how beautiful that Cuyahoga River is now. If you go out there today, you will see kayakers. Our river is getting used over and over again, and it's one of the main goals of Cuyahoga Valley National Park is to return the Cuyahoga River to a natural state that can be enjoyed. And the return of eagles a few years ago, I think, was very emblematic. They won't nest if they don't have fish to eat, and there won't be fish if the water's not clean. We talk about the reclamation of the Cuyahoga Valley. For some of you who have lived here a long time, you may remember when the Cuyahoga Valley was really a dumping ground. Perhaps the best known, what is now the Beaver Marsh in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, was filled with old automobiles. There was dumping on Hines Hill Road. Many people ask us about the reclamation story on the other side of Hines Hill Road, the other side of Route 8, and how the Park Service has reclaimed that area that was once a Superfund site. We've reclaimed the valley from being kind of the dumping ground of Northeast Ohio back to its roots. And if you go years and years ago, the Cuyahoga Valley was the farming center and food production. Back in the canal days, you would take a canal boat down to pick up food to feed people in Cleveland and Akron. The Cuyahoga Valley then later on became a getaway place. And there are many of the homes in the Cuyahoga Valley that were summer homes, especially of wealthier Cleveland residents. So farming and recreation. The Cuyahoga Valley National Park is bringing all that back to life by restoring farms and providing recreation. Our park is a park that's open year-round. I've talked about the seasons. It's also opened every hour of the day. We're not a park that has a gate. We're not restricted in time. And I love going out in the towpath in the evenings or the early mornings. Those are some of the most beautiful times in our national park. As the resources have been restored, we're seeing more and more wildlife come back. And now one of the main efforts of the national park is to remove invasive species so that our native plant life can come back, which is also important for bringing the wildlife back. And protection of habitat. So I put up the controversial one there, right? Sorry about that. I'm sure a lot of you have gardens being destroyed. And actually, you may know in the national park, we do some collected culling of the deer population because it's out of control, and you know that it's not out of control because of the national park. This is a problem throughout Northeast Ohio and very much tied to urban sprawl. We really want to provide people with opportunities to get into the out of doors. You know, there's been a lot of recent studies, especially around children, the benefit of being out of doors and being in nature. And I'm sure many of you will agree, if you have children or grandchildren, that we are kind of competing with wanting to be on technology all the time. And trust me, I think technology is important. It's not bad. It's a good thing. But we don't want technology to be so important that kids are not getting sunshine, are not hiking in the woods, breathing fresh air, getting outside. I think we're also competing with the fact that people are fearful about letting kids be outside, and kids are so overscheduled and overprogrammed. The opportunities to be outdoors are fewer and fewer between. Again, look around the room, and I imagine a number of you like me, when we were kids, you'd leave in the morning and you'd come back late in the day and you'd been outside playing. Much harder, and I will say this, not just in our urban core, but in cities like Hudson. So one of the big things we try to do is encourage people to be outdoors. We think it's healthy. And all of the research out there for kids and brain development states that fresh air, free play, outdoors, learning about the outdoors, learning about nature is so important for children. To the point some countries have things like forest schools. NPR did an interesting program last week on forest bathing, which is quite popular in Japan. You can look all these things up. I'm not making them up. And we have these opportunities right here in your backyard. So getting people out in nature is really important to us. We have 100 miles of trails in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, and I'd like to challenge people to try to do as many of those 100 miles. The towpath is 20 of those miles. We've got 80 other miles of trails. And one of the things we in my organization try to do is raise money to protect and preserve those trails, because that's healthy living for people in Northeast Ohio, that all of you can easily take a nice walk outdoors, really in your backyard. Last year was the centennial of the National Park Service. We in Cuyahoga Valley National Park came up with 100 ways to celebrate the centennial in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And now at 101, I would challenge you to find 101 things to do in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The fact is, the centennial of the National Park Service celebrated the fact that national parks are America's treasures. We were the first country to set aside places to be protected as places of important interest in terms of history and in terms of natural resources. And the national park movement now is around the world. We started it. It's now around the world to protect places that are important to the American public. And again, right here in our backyard, we have one of those places. And we need to be celebrating that. We need to be using the national park. We need to be talking about it and make sure that we are preserving these places for generations to come. We want next generations to be able to enjoy the beauty that we all get to enjoy so much. In addition to Cuyahoga Valley National Park itself, we have some really important partnerships that bring Cuyahoga Valley to life. One is Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, of which George has been a really wonderful leader and trustee for a number of years. The Scenic Railroad runs up and down. It's the spine. How many of you have ridden the train? I want to see a lot of hands here. Good. I'd love to see that. That's great. And as you know, the train offers a lot of opportunities for people, from Polar Express at Christmas, very, very popular, wine trains, beer trains, murder mysteries, all kinds of things. But I want to tell you the two things that are my favorite on the train. One is to simply do the Scenic Explorer. What a great way to see the national park. And pick a season on which you haven't been on the train. I actually love it in the winter or like in March before the leaves come out, and the opportunity to really see the topography of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's just spectacular. And my other favorite is bike aboard, where you can ride one way, and when you get tired, put your bike on the train and take the train back. It's really a wonderful deal financially, and just a treat, a great thing to take kids on. Excuse me. The other partnership we have is with the Countryside Conservancy, and the Countryside Conservancy protects the farms in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. This program has gotten national attention, and again, it's one of those things we here in Northeast Ohio take for granted. Having a train and having these farms protected gets talked about all over the country. To take historic farms and restore them to farms that are done organically without chemicals is quite remarkable in a national park to find working farms. How many of you have been to the farmers market in the national park? It was the first farmers market in a national park. And again, national reputation for that. In the national park, we have a variety of ranger-led programs. Get online, look at the schedule of events. We've got wonderful interpretive rangers who lead all kinds of interesting hikes and programs for youth and families and adults, some so popular that they have had to control registration. So last year, every full moon hike that was scheduled for the national park, they were getting 400 and 500 people show up. That's how popular. And now have gone to a call-in registration so that they can kind of control the numbers. Again, it speaks to the kind of things the park offer are what people are looking for today. Health and wellness, opportunities to run, to hike, to bike, to ride horses. We all know health and wellness, nothing is more important than moving, than getting up and moving. And for people maybe with limited mobility, to have a towpath trail that's flat, that's very different than many other national parks. Education. So one of the great things we do is educate kids about the national park. We have a residential program at Cuyahoga Valley Environmental Education Center where children actually stay overnight. They come with their school groups and they stay anywhere from 2 days to 5 days. There are dormitories, dining halls. It's very popular, 4th through 8th graders, many, many area schools. I have to tell you that my favorite part of what we do is offer this program to urban schools. We work very closely with the Akron Public Schools and the Cleveland Municipal School District. And for a number of those children, this is their only opportunity to be in a national park. This is their camp experience. They are just flabbergasted by finding tadpoles and finding caterpillars and even snakes. They absolutely love being outdoors. And we have designed a curriculum that enhances, it gives a field-based experience to what they're learning in the classroom. So, you know, you can learn about the change of the seasons, you can learn about weather, you can learn about wildlife. To be outdoors and experience it is what sticks with the kids. And we really are focused on their academic success. We get them outside. We have summer camps as well. They are outside quite a bit, and this is all through the year. Even December, January, February, kids are there and are outdoors. And there's some pictures of the Environmental Education Center. It's located on Oak Hill Road. We, as the Conservancy, the organization that I direct, we work with the National Park Service to manage the Environmental Education Center. We co-manage the Parks Volunteer Program. We have over 6,000 volunteers. Anybody here a park volunteer? With that many volunteers, I don't know them all. We have volunteers that do everything from working visitor desks to quite a few really run the railroad. The volunteer program is just spectacular on Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. They help us with wildlife monitoring. They pull invasive species for us. They park cars. We could not be the park that we are without our tremendous support through our volunteers. We have 2 retail stores, Trail Mix in Peninsula, Trail Mix in Boston, not far from here. We provide snacks and treats for visitors. These stores are run by the Conservancy, us as the nonprofit. And I'll tell you, if you have out-of-town guests and you want to take them to do some local shopping, our Trail Mix stores are great places to go. We have great arts and culture programs. Happy Days Lodge, used to be Happy Days Visitor Center, is a fabulous place for concerts. We have a couple art galleries in the national park. We look for ways to connect the arts because we know that arts and nature go together, and arts are a great way for people to experience the national park. Our most popular series is our summer Music in the Meadow series at Howe Meadow. We also have a program we call Extraordinary Spaces. As the Conservancy, we lease buildings from the National Park Service and make them available to the public. If any of you are looking for meeting spaces, corporate meetings we host, we have 104 weddings we're hosting this year in the National Park, and it's very sweet. The brides will call themselves National Park brides. They're very proud about that. And we do this in part, of course, it's a way of having some earned income for the Conservancy, but we also do this as a way to deepen that relationship with the national park. And so if it's a place you go to for a corporate meeting, if you go to a family reunion, you go to a wedding there, it often introduces new people to national parks, and it's an experience you will not forget. It becomes very important to you. We as the Conservancy also work at raising money. That's one of our main jobs as a nonprofit friends group. So every national park in the country, any of the larger national parks, have friends groups like ours. Cuyahoga Valley is one of the largest in the country. We're very proud about that. The friends groups do what the federal government can't do for itself: raise money, operate certain types of programs, manage community relationships. The Park Service, with its limited staff and becoming more limited as the federal budget becomes limited, needs the community to support national parks. If we care about our parks, we need to get involved and support them. So we raise money for a variety of park projects. And I'd like to emphasize that it's because people will ask me that, well, shouldn't the federal government completely support our national parks? We all know the limitations of federal budget. I'm not here to make a political statement. It's just reality. And so what we're finding is that people who care about national parks support the parks that they love the best. And in our case, Cuyahoga Valley National Park's success is important for the success of Northeast Ohio. Tourism, quality of life, young adults, millennials, love to live where there's parks. And so this is really an important thing for the future of Northeast Ohio, that we embrace having a national park in our backyard and do what we can to make it strong. The best way I tell people to do that is to join our organization. For $45 a year, you become an investor in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And it's because of the many, we have over 4,000 members, and it's because of those members we're able to get a lot done on behalf of our park, from education to urban children to special projects in the park. That's our website, Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Again, we're a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to support and make sure this is the best park possible. And I want to end by telling you our newest, biggest project, and then I will certainly love to have questions. So one of the things that we recognized in our park is that we did not have what people expect when they go to national parks, and that's a central visitor center. If any of you traveled to other national parks? Recently, yeah? So where do you go when you get to the national park? What's your first stop? The visitor center. So in our case, the kind of central visitor center is the back of Boston store. Hard to find because it's the back of the building. Small parking area, excuse me, an awkward parking area. Not easy, not kind of welcoming to out of state. You know, for those of us who live here, oh yeah, Boston store, we know right where that is. Hard for people to find. So the park about 8 years ago made a decision that in their future forecasting, they wanted a real visitor center, one that's easy to find, that's central, that will say, especially to out of state people, you are welcome here. At the same time, the owner of, and probably a lot of you know this building, the owner of, it's a red building right on the Cuyahoga River, on Boston Mills Road, corner of Boston Mills and Riverview, currently an apartment building, came to the national park and said, I want to downsize, I want to sell this building, I want it to go to the national park. And we looked at it and said, perfect location. Park Service actually did a study and said, absolutely best location, right in the center. Right in the center of the park, easy access, easy to get to from Route 8, easy to get to from the Ohio Turnpike. Could not be a better location. So these are some historic pictures of that site. This was actually the company store downstairs for the Boston Mills, and upstairs where some people, residents lived. This was part of the company town of Boston. So we have purchased that property. We purchased it in February, and in the spring of 2019, this will be the visitor center for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It will consist of a beautiful building as a visitor center, kind of a little outdoor pavilion. It's right where the train is. The train station will be right there, so people can get on and off the train easily. There will be a 100-space parking lot. I think that's one of the things that makes everybody happy is more parking. It's hard to drive through there right now on busy weekends because of lack of parking. And this gives you kind of an aerial view of what it will be to have a central visitor center for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. I started out by saying we are getting a lot of out-of-state visitation. So one of the things we need to do is better welcome those people, not just to Cuyahoga Valley National Park, but to Akron and Cleveland. So a part of this design in this visitor center is to say, welcome to Cuyahoga Valley, and here's things you can do in Akron and Cleveland as well. So I think I will end there. And I would be happy to take questions or comments, any thoughts you have about Cuyahoga Valley National Park. I want to end by saying it's your park, and I hope you get out and enjoy it. So yes.
Well, I've been to Polar Express, Thomas the Train, and Our Lady's class at church. We have our retreats at the Educational Center, and it's so great because they provide the food, they provide everything you can think of. We pay, but you know what I mean.
Right. I do, and thank you for saying that. The Environmental Education Center as well is a great resource, and managed by us, the nonprofit partner. Because of that, we can provide food and other resources. But thank you for saying that. It's it's a great local resource.
Actually, I have two questions. And I have a mic. I won't get to all your questions. You can manage the camera. Anyway, first one is, I'm always amazed at how clean it is.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, are the visitors very good, or you just do a huge amount of work to pick up all the trash? And the second question is, I know that there's all kinds of organizations involved in the canal path. And I'm wondering what the park's involvement is in terms of trying to develop that path all the way
Right,
down.
great question. Both great comment, great question. So in terms of cleanliness in the national park, it's not unlike what you say to your kids when they were young and about their bedrooms. If you get it clean, it's easier to keep it clean. We have a wonderful maintenance staff in the national park who do a great job maintaining the national park. Certainly they're a resource. But our experience is that our visitors love this park, and they're very careful about keeping things picked up. And we have visitors, of course, assisting. But I think our visitors really treasure Cuyahoga Valley and help keep it clean. In terms of the towpath, this is one of the great success stories. I would put this as top 5 success stories in Northeast Ohio in terms of regional working together. So the towpath trail started in Cuyahoga Valley National Park, first 20 miles. It's gone south now all the way to Zora. It's gone north into Cleveland. A few more sections of it in downtown Cleveland need to be completed, and then we're going to have over 100 miles of towpath trail. Most of the work now in development is being happening on a local level, and especially up in the Cleveland area. But the park remains very much a part of the conversation and very much a part of looking at the future of Canal Basin in downtown Cleveland, where we hope to have a little visitor center there. So I would view the national park as important player in making sure that the towpath is so successful. And one of the great stories of it is many of the communities up and down Northeast Ohio are now developing connector trails. And, trails are everything for communities these days because, again, young people want to live where they can hike and bike. And people that are seniors want easy, flat walking opportunities off-road. They don't always want to be in the road. So this is just a huge success story of regional cooperation in Northeast Ohio. Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Very, very informative.
Good.
My question is, how does a park qualify to be a national park? What are the steps involved with that?
Well, a national park has to be designated by Congress. It can't be a local community just claiming that it is. In the case of Cuyahoga Valley, it was, congressional vote and signature by a president. So it really takes both president and Congress. And I sometimes get asked this, well, what makes Cuyahoga Valley? Why is it a national park? Why not a metro park? We're not better than, and I always like to emphasize that we have a great relationship with Cleveland Metro Parks and Summit Metro Parks. We have 4 metro parks within our boundaries, 2 Summit, 2 Cleveland. But I think the uniqueness of a national park has to do with national significance. In our case, that is both our history with the Ohio and Erie Canal, but it's also the natural area that is being protected, and in our case, significant because it's close to urban areas. So we became part of the National Park Service in the 1970s, not long after the urban riots of the late 60s, and every federal agency was looking for ways to be relevant. The National Park Service said, our relevancy is that we're going to establish 3 national park sites close to urban areas that still do a great job of protecting natural areas. Then that was Gateway in New York City, Golden Gate in San Francisco, and Cuyahoga Valley in Cleveland. So it was, for our case, the national designation was part of a moment in history, but was also recognition of large amount of habitat close to an urban area. And we continue to be considered an urban national park because of the way we work with the urban population.
Hi. You might want to just talk for a minute about what the new visitor centers is going to cost and how you raise the money.
Oh, thanks, George. Thank you for asking that. So the new visitor center is a $5.9 million project that included land acquisition, building acquisition, exhibit design, building design. We're using Peninsula Architects out of Peninsula. We're very happy to have a local vendor there. Hilferty is doing the exhibits, and they're out of Athens, Ohio. So again, somewhat local, at least Ohio-based. $5.9 million. We've raised about 5.5 of that 5.9. We just actually got a couple of gifts yesterday, so now we're probably edging closer to 5.6, so we're almost done with fundraising. We got a wonderful lead gift from the GAR Foundation. Other foundations in Akron and Cleveland stepped up to the plate, and then a number of individuals have been very generous to us and made significant gifts to make this happen. And we are so proud of our community for investing $6 million in our national park to make this visitor center happen. And then, great news just announced by the Department of Interior on Monday, our park was selected as one of the parks to receive a gift of money through the Centennial Challenge Program, which means federal dollars that will go to some of the infrastructure in the parking lot at this site that's over and above that $5.9 million. Federal dollars, it needed a local match. And because we had raised this local money, we were able to leverage a federal match for this visitor center, which is, we're about one of about 30, 40 parks selected for these dollars. That was really a great thing. And you know, I want to say that to say, nationally, Cuyahoga Valley National Park has a terrific reputation as a park that is important to the national park system and a park that gets things done. And in part, I'll say because of the conservancy and the work of our board and our staff. Yeah.
Sometimes they get a little apprehensive, but you know, as far as security of the park.
Yeah, really, I'll answer that two different ways. So ranger-wise, the park has about 110 staff kind of year-round. This time of year, they add another maybe 40, 50 seasonals, both in maintenance and interpretation. Of those, I'd have to look at them. Probably 30 are rangers, like interpretive and law enforcement rangers. But really, your question is about safety, and there has never been an assault in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. When you see, we have a few statistics about, I realize I'm being videotaped, I almost hate to say the dead bodies in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's more dumping or suicides. We have an incredibly safe park. I see women out well into the evening after dark. I bike alone in the evenings. I never feel unsafe there. We have a wonderful reputation, and I think it's in part because we have a lot of people that use the park. I think that adds to the safety, but there's just not been a problem. We're also lucky being an urban park. If there is a problem, 911 is right there. So, yes.
Question about the Cuyahoga River itself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to the dam removal and what it's changing, and what potential other activities, fishing, some more boating can happen? What do you anticipate down the road?
Yeah, the Cuyahoga River is really important to us, and that's a great question. And you know, the Brecksville Dam is coming down. We look forward to the day. We know it's a ways away yet when the big dam, the Akron, the old Ohio Edison Dam will come down. That needs to happen. When dams come down, it enhances water quality, pure and simple. We need to get the river back to its natural state. Very, very important. People are already fishing in the Cuyahoga River. Kayaking, canoeing is taking off like wildfire, and the park is working on protocols to make sure that we're a safe boating river. I would say this to you, it's already a wonderful river for recreation. We need to enhance that, and we need to make sure people are safe along the river. And I think as a community, we need to get behind any activities our communities can do. And part of protecting water quality is making sure, you know, water goes downhill. We need to make sure our communities, Hudson is one of them, that we protect stormwater. We do everything we can to prevent runoff. We really need to enlist everybody's help in this to make sure we keep the river clean and safe for visitors and our local residents.
Deb, just one quick comment. My best friend from high school who lives in New Zealand visited me last summer. First place I took him was to the ledges.
Oh, great.
And he said, this is far and above anything in New Zealand. He loved it.
Oh, don't you love to hear that? I love to hear that. And it's a great way, it's a great ending question, because I'll come back to what I said to you, what I was going to talk about through all this, is we here in Northeast Ohio take this for granted because it's right here. People across the country and actually around the world, and we're getting a lot more international visitors, I probably should have mentioned that too, are finding out that Cuyahoga Valley National Park is a terrific place. And so help us, be ambassadors, visit the park yourself and spread the word. It's just such an important asset for the future in Northeast Ohio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. We really appreciate you giving your time and doing that. I want to thank the greeters, Tom Tobin and Ron Barnhouse, audiovisual crew, Dan Rich, Tom Page, Tom Tobin, James Field, and Ron Barnhouse, also for that too. You've been busy, Ron. We do a Rotobuck, so if you would pick our ticket for us.
I would be happy to do that.
And it is $14, and the jackpot's for $238. You can
Read the number. All right. Last four, 9965.
Sue, check mine. Oh, no.
Oh, we got a winner. We have a winner.
Woohoo! Thank you. Sure. Jackpot's $238.
See if it's in there.
Oh, it's in there.
Okay.
He doesn't trust us. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Oh, you want? What do you want? On a closing note, Liz asked me to remind everyone, if you know anyone that is sick or on occasion that she needs to send out a card, please let Liz know. Also, I want to thank Chris Barker and Ben Rexworth. I said it wrong. Rex Road, and he left. I just want to thank them for all the work they do behind the scenes, things that we don't even realize they're doing. Not only are they here early every week and do all that, they work very hard during the week. I really appreciate them. Thank them for that. I want to thank you for being a Rotarian and for being here this morning, and make someone smile today. That's it. Thank you.